this was the stuff Sue had in my mailbox and I would.
Okay, good. Yeah,
So I got that.
yeah, so you got those examples.
Yeah, that's what we needed, right?
Yeah, but it sounds like a few of them might not have gotten it last month, so. it'll be-
Yeah, well, last month I wasn't here, right?
Right, so I can chew on
If
that.
Joe wasn't here, we got
Works right.
it. Sure. Chamber.
Ricky, this is the one you dropped off earlier today then?
Oh, that's my bag.
Yep, that's it.
So I had it for 6 months, didn't even know. I called Bellinger, he's like, I sent that to you about 5 or 6 months ago. I don't know.
So you gave them the link?
Yeah, I gave them,
That's exactly the same thing that.
correct, that same document that I got,
Yes,
correct.
I don't need to give that to him, right? And this is that.
That's probably next year's 40 years of employment.
Is it really?
Started when I was 17 with Schwartz.
You know, the Schwartzes started with my dad.
Yeah.
He worked at a wholesale house and my dad hired him to dig undergrounds after work.
I started when I was 17 with that, and then be 57 December.
Holy cow, you're sneaking right up there to 60. I had 60 this year.
It's all downhill from there.
Well, it all changes after 60, they say. But it changed after 50 too.
You don't know what it was.
Yeah, I've had my cell phone number 38 years. I've been in business 40 years.
30 years. I've been in business for years.
Well,
Yeah.
where'd it go?
I don't even think of that until you said that.
Right, where'd it go?
I don't know.
Remember the first thing you'd say when you walked in from out at work, you walk into the house, the first thing you said when you came in was, who called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stay up, Phil, I'm gonna call the meeting to order, 7 o'clock.
All
Right,
right.
everybody stand, pledge the flag, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Have a roll call.
Roll call, Dan Miller.
Here.
Tom Wise.
Here.
Andrew Derderian. Phil Bellinger. Nick Holden is absent. Lance Gould. George Nash.
Okay, can we get a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented, please?
Also move to approve the agenda for October 9th, 2024.
All in favor?
Somebody's got to second it.
Wait,
I'll say
should
it.
they do something here?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. How about a motion for the approval of the minutes for August 14th and to note that we did not have a meeting on September 11th. Canceled. Lack of agenda items.
Also move to approve the minutes, August 14th, 2024. Make a note that we do not have one in September.
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to it? Okay, public comments. For items not scheduled on this agenda tonight, we'll have 3 minutes.
Karen Pacheco, Village of Metamora. So I apologize for the state of this. I need a new printer, and I needed another hour to edit it, but the basics are there. First, I want to say, Mr. Israel, you weren't here for the last meeting, but I did make a couple of comments about how I watched my recording from the previous meeting, and I just thought you could be a lot more efficient in your communication, kind of cut down the stories, and that would make you more effective, and that's my professional opinion, having gone to grad school for that. So I would appreciate if you keep that in mind. Also, you had said in the meeting before, when there was a forward slash in between 2 words, professional editor, I looked up in my sources as well. The slash, the forward slash, means and/or. It doesn't divide things, it means and/or. Anyway, again, I'm not perfect, I don't expect anyone to be perfect, but I have to say, in the last meeting when we were discussing Creo, I heard an awful lot of myths that I knew from having just paid attention to information about solar energy and wind energy. I just knew that they were false. And it concerns me when people in power don't have information, aren't basing things on facts. And it makes me wonder where you're getting your information. And I say that as someone who read newspapers professionally for 5 years every single day. I would consider my sources. So there were a couple things that came up in a previous meeting. Keller, I'm not meaning to pick on you. We all say things sometimes, but you called solar a threat. Is there any threat of solar? That word bothered me. Okay. Solar is not a threat. You also said something about you didn't want an electric car because of the range of the cold Michigan. Fair to be concerned about that, but I think about that every time I see a Tesla, which is like all day long I see Teslas, right? All of those intelligent people bought Teslas because they meet their needs. But there are all kinds of electric cars out there, so I looked up in Consumers Reports. Almost all the cars out there, the electric cars, have a range of 170 miles per day. Or, on a full charge, you also have the chance to plug them in during the day if you have the opportunity, and that would meet far more than most of our needs of 40 miles per day that we drive. But in the Creo discussion there, some things came out about, in particular, somebody brought up that they look like a mess. Solar installations like the one I sure look like a mess because they're not mowing in between. Mowing is not actually good for the environment. Mowing cuts down things like wildflowers, which are good for bees. So solar installations, they have found actually the biodiversity goes way up, the insect life goes way up, which is good for us. So I see a mowed lawn like some of the big mowed lawns around here, and I go, that's actually not great for us. It'd be better to have flowers out there. Solar farms are toxic. A lot of people believe that. They are actually not toxic. They have not poisoned any groundwater. They have not poisoned any farmland. They make actually very low impact. I heard something about, well, there's a solar installation in Lapeer, but nowhere else in the county would that really be. Lapeer does not get more sun than us. Like, we get very comparable amounts of sun. So, and they are actually, solar panels work more efficiently in the cold. So a solar panel in Michigan with the same amount of sun as Arizona would actually, in the cold, would make more. There are all kinds of solar panels in England, actually. They're very popular there. So it is maybe not as straightforward as you think it is. So all kinds of things I heard and about the money, okay, that they're going to raise the bills. It's actually the cheapest form of electricity right now is from solar. So I would really urge you to do more research on these topics. As you are making decisions about all of us, yes, have a big, wide green screen around these things, absolutely. But do not, scare the public about solar power. Thank you.
Moving right along. Okay.
So as we know, at that last meeting that we held in August, we were without George and we were without Joe Israel. We kind of agreed as a board that we weren't gonna do anything in August because they weren't here. But now I kind of feel a similar thing tonight. So at that at that August meeting, Ann had asked me to provide everybody with a few different examples of sign ordinances in some of our neighboring communities. And I think there might have been a miscommunication between myself and Sue Clark, as we have seen there have been a few. I thought that everybody was gonna get a copy of these in their mailboxes and then review them this month. And Ann tells me that she did not get hers, so I think that maybe some others also did not get theirs. So as you guys know, we're very close to being finished with our edits to the sign chapter, but I think this is a key piece that I want you guys to spend a month and review this document that's got all 4 of those sign ordinances in it, and then come back. And I think that that'll really give us clarity on the few pieces of information that we're waiting to finalize. One of those being wall sign display area for our main commercial and industrial district. I think that once we all get a chance to review these 4 different instances of how Village of Oxford, City of Lapeer, Almont Township, and Lapeer Township, I think once we see exactly how they do it, then that'll give us an answer on what exactly we want to do. I'll also say that a lot going on in the township right now. You know, the election's coming up. So I would say let's kick the can down the road another month before we look to set a public hearing for this.
Yes.
That sounds like a great idea,
Yeah.
especially when,
Get all this material to review. Yeah, so what I'll tell you is, as you all know, I did use the City of Lapeer's sign ordinance as a reference in a lot of the editing that we've done over the last 6 months or so. So I think you'll see a lot of similarities. But I kind of treat this, the City of Lapeer one is very, very strong, but it's very, as I spoke to at a previous meeting, the city drew a line in the sand and said, we're done with pole signs. We're not gonna allow any new pole signs to come up. Along with that, they also did a few other things this is a very strict sign ordinance that the City of Lapeer has. So it's a good example, but it's a good example on one end of the spectrum that is pretty hard on signs, is what I'll say. So I think Lapeer Township is a little bit more business friendly, I would say maybe, and allows for larger signage and more signage. And that would be my encouragement to you all to think about, is make a determination on, do we want the sign ordinance to be very business friendly, or do we want the sign ordinance to be very kind of clean up the streets a little bit and have less signage and less size of signage? And then once you make a decision on what you want to do, then I can offer the policy to accomplish that goal. So if we want to be very business friendly, which we've kind of talked about in previous meetings, that's great. I am full support of that. I can offer some great policy to make our sign ordinance very business friendly. If we want to go the opposite way, and like the City of Lapeer did and be real strict, then I can offer policy that will align with that thought as well. So I would think about that. What do we want to be as a township? And it sounds like we want to be pretty business friendly along the commercial corridors. So keep that in mind as you think about what we should do to finalize this chapter here.
I like the idea of having something in between both. Because I'm looking at this City of Lapeer regulation. Well,
Yeah.
if you want to know, think twice about.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And that's what developers see. And one crazy thing, one big one that Lapeer has is I've been struggling with this one, is their canopy signage size. Their size for canopies, so think about gas station canopies, they say letters or logos may not be more than 15 inches from top to bottom. I have had several developers come to me and say, we cannot install a sign that is compliant with that is effective. So we've had a lot of variance requests for that recently. That'll absolutely be a point that the city looks to amend in the near future, I suspect.
Well, I see some of the things that you've taken from them, Steve's Fish House, those things.
It's the same graphic, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite, what's the penalty for what they've proposed, or what they have in?
It's a great question, and I think the penalty is really, So we've had a lot of, the police really dominate the code enforcement in the city of Lapeer. They have police officers, as they're driving around their routes for the days, they're kind of the ones that are the code enforcers in the city of Lapeer. And they tend to be, they issue tickets, right? So they'll give a warning, maybe a second warning, and then they'll go out and issue tickets. So that's kind of what, so a lot of folks have been stretching the limitations of the temporary sign ordinance in Lapeer. So like a church, for example, will have a sign up for a weekly event that they have. And that sign is in addition to a monument sign that they have. So like that is just, you get consistent reminders and then you get a ticket. And if you continue to violate, you continue to get tickets. And if the city wants to take it a step further, then they can take that individual to court if they wanted to after a long, period of ticketing. But the real drawback, the biggest thing to keep in mind with this kind of stuff, as well as site plan review chapter, is this regulates new signs. The existing ones that are already out become grandfathered in. If we change the ordinance to go to a smaller size, but we've got all these big signs that are already out, we're not gonna go to those businesses and say, hey, you gotta fix your sign. No, they become legal nonconformities and they can continue. They just can't put up another one that looks just like it, basically.
Good question.
Yeah.
Somebody inform the police department to go out and look at the sign, or do they just driving around see a sign, so I don't like that sign, I'm gonna write a ticket?
Really?
Come on, who kind of points the finger?
You wanna take that? What do you think about that?
So he's asking for the city of Lapeer, but I'll tell you, in Metamora Township,
Yeah, sure.
we do a complaint based, and so if there's a complaint, they have to come in, file a complaint, and then somebody registers a complaint, and then they would dispatch me to go investigate the complaint.
Yes, but
So,
I think
Yeah.
the police department in Lapeer, they got other things to do besides driving around
Right, I
with
was
a
gonna say,
sign.
that's.
I would
not
think
a
I
big
don't
part.
know if that's.
So I'll say generally speaking,
Someone else about that.
generally speaking, if a community has a staff of code enforcers, they kind of do the other end. So you got one end of the spectrum that is complaint basis, and you've got another end of the spectrum which is we're actively out and looking at everything. I think that Lapeer probably falls somewhere in the middle, because these, as you said, George, these police officers are not dedicated code enforcement officers. But if they are driving around and they see something wrong, they're gonna stop and say something about it. In addition to that, if we get complaints, we're also gonna go at it.
So
So,
they don't know what's wrong unless they read all this stuff.
unless,
Or memorize it.
if,
In addition to all the other
They don't have all that memorized.
they don't have all, that is absolutely the truth, they do not have all that memorized, but I can tell you that the city manager puts things in their heads and says, okay, or other staff will put some in their head and say, hey, I saw this in this area of the city, I want you guys to keep an eye out for it. And like signs are one thing that Lapeer, like I said, drew a line in the sand, so they've absolutely been telling their police officers to enforce this, real hard. Yeah.
So with Metamora Township, we don't have the near volume that Lapeer has, and we're more of a country, rural, friendly, business-oriented township. So I would suggest when we look through these other ordinances, read everybody's, and then compare it to ours. And, as we've already done on ours, we've struck a lot of things out on ours. And I believe in the zoning world in Metamora Township, we're not going to be adding, we're going to try to make ours simpler, friendly. I want to thank Ann for saying how I communicate in that, and I know the freedom of speech is very important in this great country of ours. And with that being said, everybody has that expression to put up a sign, even if they don't like somebody, they can do that too. So that's what makes the world so great, and Metamora Township even more better, is because everybody can have their freedom of expression, and they can have their business like Lance has on M24 and all the other businesses. So keep that in mind when you're looking through these other ordinances. We don't have the staff, we don't have the police department running around. We're not we're a rural, friendly, relaxed community. If there's some obvious, blatant something going on, it's definitely going to get addressed a lot quicker. Even the police will do something a little quicker. And that's what I have. The planning commission guys are in charge of what you want this township to look like
Right.
And
and feel.
I want to ask the board, do you want to discuss this anymore? You want to try to table it till we can
Well,
look at it a little
yeah,
more?
we need to digest.
Yeah,
I should.
and if so, I'll entertain.
We'll have a
motion to
test
table.
next month.
Yeah, right. You guys might,
I flunk it, I can.
well, you guys might be quizzing me.
There's no way.
Can I get a motion to table?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll make a motion to table, our discussion and determination of the sign ordinance until next month's meeting, so we can thoroughly read this and compare it with the other material we already have.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed to it? Okay, we'll take it, that way we can get another, it's good read.
It's
We'll just keep swinging at it till we get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I understand we have a kind of a late item tonight.
So in front of you, there's a packet that the Best came in on Monday, and they have the Best Wedding Barn on Best Road out there. And a year ago, they got a variance for some items that are required for their site plan approval. And so we put together what they had, their variance request that was granted, and then their application that they gave me on Monday. And I forwarded that to Ben because he's the planner. And it's in front of you folks tonight. You can either review it, you can listen to what Ben has to say on it, you could table it, you could approve it, you could approve it with conditions, you could not approve it. You've got all kinds of options that our ordinance allows for the applicant and for the planning commission.
Are we talking about this last couple pages, is that their application?
That's the application that we got on Monday. Yep.
Okay.
And then also in that packet, I put in the variance that they got a year ago. And I also put in a copy of the site plan that they presented to get the variance.
And I understand everything is up to snuff, other than maybe you looking at something. I mean, this is fresh across my desk right now.
Well, that's, Ben got it when, yesterday?
Yep, I got it just yesterday, yep, and I'll say, this looks like, some proposed work within ag here, and traditionally, we don't get full site plans for ag or for residential districts. In this case, absolutely, we will get one for what's going on, the use of land here. I will say the most challenging piece to this site plan would have been the use of land, which is already approved, so I'm, happy to hear that we don't have to mess around with that now, that was already settled. It looks like, looking at this briefly, that most of the things on site are existing and not to be changed. And when we get a site plan that has most of the stuff existing, no change, a lot of our requirements are not applicable. So I think that we will need to see a little bit more work done on this site plan to bring it up to full compliance with us, but I'm confident we can do it with a little back and forth with the applicant here. So yes, as Joe said, this is a site plan, and you do have all the possible decisions at your disposal. Table, approve with conditions, approve or deny, and I have not had a chance to look through this thoroughly yet, so I'll just say that as you guys think about your decision for tonight.
Wouldn't we have to have a sealed,
Yeah,
copy of?
that's one of the requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, it sure is.
Because this is just a sketch.
Yeah, just a sketch at this point, yeah.
I got one comment to make. I was out there today, this is, I was out there today and looking around, and they've done a very nice job. They've got the asphalt in, which we didn't, we said it'd be hard surface, it should have been hard surface, but we didn't make that, under the ZBA, we didn't make that a situation.
Mm-hmm.
So they went kind of overboard. I think they went overboard. They got bathrooms in there. men and women's bathrooms now,
Mhm.
and they've complied with everything that I know of.
That's great. I can tell you that sanitary bathroom facilities are a big sticking point for these. A lot of people have big ideas, they wanna do something like this, event venue and agricultural, and the sanitary facilities are often the point that get them, because we cannot approve a permanent use like this with temporary facilities. I've had a few requests of people that wanna bring in these luxury, porta potties, I'll call them,
Yeah.
and we can't approve that because it's temporary. I don't care how nice they are.
Hand washing in the.
All in this like trailer,
Yeah.
right? It's beautiful and it's nice
Yeah,
for, but it's not up
yeah.
to snuff for a permanent use.
No,
So,
yeah.
yeah, glad to hear that.
So what exactly do you see on here that isn't here that you need?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, great question. Like Ann said, we look for a little bit more of an architectural print with a seal on it.
I think that's gonna come.
But other than that, not really too much. Would just like to see some of those site improvements that have been done reflected on the print. So here it says gravel lot and gravel drive. And if there's truly asphalt out there now, then I'd like to see that kind of thing on the print. Mhm.
Okay, I know asphalt, ground-up asphalt wasn't down there, taken down there.
You got drive to home, I think,
144.
Well, we haven't seen them.
through the ZBA.
That's
Loads
not
of
dry.
couple semis,
That's a
hauling
sketch.
in, and then they spread it around, so it isn't, it's an aggregate, but it's.
You know, that's the other thing the planning commission could do, they could,
Yeah,
I don't think you guys would object to the planning commission going there and looking at it at all, or even.
We welcome everyone.
Not at all.
I've looked at it, and that's what I see, looks good.
And it isn't ash, I mean, it's crushed asphalt, is what we run in.
Okay.
It's not real, that's
Crushed,
why
I
it's
gotcha.
gravel.
Yeah.
It's actually 21 double A.
Oh, it's just 21 double A. That's great.
21 double A asphalt.
Yeah, which is a very standard, under just about every road in the state is 21 double A, so that's a real good one.
Yeah.
That's why it says gravel, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, well, that makes sense then.
I think it hits out of the park with the amount of trucks.
I'll also say a major point on uses like this is how the neighbors feel. I'll be real honest, how the neighbors feel, and it looks like from what Joe's put together here that there's a lot of support from the neighbors for this use. So I expect that they've talked to their neighbors and shown how respectful that they're going to be.
Could I make one quick comment on that?
Sure.
Every neighbor around it and everyone that was affected coming down the road that was not around it, they were all in favor of it, and most of them come in and spoke for us.
That's great to hear.
There was nobody around us that was against it.
No neighbor.
That people would be affected by what was going on.
Right.
No,
Well,
no
it's
neighbor.
secluded. It's actually secluded. I mean,
Yeah.
I was kind of like referring to the people who lived on the road that would be affected by it, they were for it. And also the people that did have land that touched our land.
well, I was looking at the location, the last party facility that we were gonna do a couple of years ago was on Barber Road. That is not a good place to have because of the traffic situation. So, and you have access to a M24, which is better.
Another thing, he doesn't have through traffic, that road, so they go in there and do what they want, they come back out. To the people driving by and driving by.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything other than those couple of little things that are rolled up? I know they got the architectural stamp, seal, all that good stuff.
Yeah, but it's not on a plan.
Well,
I think we gotta have a plan. That's
Yeah,
what
I
it
would,
says.
even if it's all the same information, George, I would say I'd be more comfortable if we had a real.
You have to see
Yeah.
where the toilets are.
Right, where the two and all those,
You know, all the inside things, the
There
walls.
is a plan, we
Well,
have that.
yeah,
it's
I
not
got-
in here,
It's
so
been
it's gotta
submitted,
be presented. Well,
and I got one sitting on Sue Wood's desk right
Yeah, the
now.
plan
well, that's a great,
that we have is for the building department, for the building use of it. That's the engineered plan with the stamp on it that they have. So the building wise, it has a stamp on it and it has architect, engineer, and it meets all the building codes for the building because they took a barn, did a change in use to an assembly. So that's the engineering that's done on that. And that's in the building department for that, for building permits, plumbing, mechanical, electrical.
Yeah, that's what I just.
And that print may satisfy a lot of the questions that I'll have from our site plan review perspective, but I haven't had a chance to review it yet.
We submitted that a long time ago, so,
Okay.
along with the letter from the structural engineer.
Yeah, that's the building code
Yeah.
regulations,
Yeah.
and that is in our building
Right.
office. The planning commission deals with the site, the site plan and the improvements on the site, and everything that you guys discussed already.
And I'm sure they have your number, Joe, if they want to ask more questions, exactly, you know.
Yep, that and Ben's, because Ben's the one,
Exactly.
I'm the one on the building end of it for health, safety, and welfare, and Ben's the one on the site plan part of it for parking, lighting, landscaping, accessibility.
That way they have a good, clear way to get
Clear
the
path,
information
right.
you need. Anything else anybody wants on, talk on this one? You pretty much have what you need, Ben? I mean, other when you get it.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I do have a question on our other wedding facility down the road here, the old Marcino's place, where they're starting to do earthwork, and fairly well done, I'm guessing, what I've seen of it.
Yep, that's the site plan there that the planning commission approved.
Yes.
That was for the additional parking that they needed, for the amount of people that they were bringing in there. That's also for the change in use. They changed that building also from a school, office, business setting to an assembly, event center, similar to what the Best have done with their barn.
Yeah, I've seen them working on it.
And like on,
They're a year late getting going.
right, and like on that one, when the planning commission did the site plan approval on that, and this place was packed because all the neighbors there
Yeah,
were very concerned what was going on.
yes, and
Well, that was close.
the only thing I don't see yet is
Residential.
the 25 trees they're supposed to be, but that's, this
Right, and that was part of the planning commission's
Yeah.
requirement for their site plan was additional trees, landscaping, for that privacy buffer to that residential use, next to it, and then part of my process will be making sure that that's all in there prior to giving them a certificate of occupancy of that whole place.
I
And
mean,
they're no different than what I have to do for the
I
best.
think I have
After they get their site plan approval, and it's the way the planning commission wants it, and the way Ben wants it or presents it, and then the building approvals, I take the site plan, planning commission notes, building plans notes, and then I can do the full approval and give them a certificate of occupancy also.
It's my understanding they're still gonna add another building area to that.
Yep, there's gonna be an addition to that building right there for additional, space.
It's kind of late taking off, that's why it kind of gets out of your mind,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
It kind of stalls partway, so.
Glad to hear they're moving a little bit.
So. Okay, do we have anything else on for the best? Anything at all? Probably nothing. Anybody else? Okay, communication reports. That's it. How about discussion, commission members? Do we have anything there? Well, we're working right on down you, Ben. Planners report.
Nothing new from me.
You not ready to quit yet?
Nope, I love working for you all. Nope. Promise.
Okay, I guess I'm looking for one more motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Real quick question, why wasn't their agenda item communicate effectively, which would be putting this in, right? Thank you.
So we received the application on the 7th here, so I had already had the agenda to sue,
Yeah.
and it was printed out.
It's difficult for us in the public to even compare, you know what I mean?
Well, same here, that's why we didn't do an approval tonight.
No, that's good, I'm just saying. We could do better, and also this meeting, as, I didn't check today, but as of Monday, was not on the township calendar. So, it'd be great if we made sure that, thank you.
I didn't look at the calendar.
I'll make a note of that and talk to Sue
My
Clark.
mail,
Is that your fault?
Sue's got her hands full with early voting and
Is that,
board of elections.
is somebody's fault?
That's mine, I forgot I left it out there. I was.
Should
have known it was
Flip phone, girlies.
Yeah, that's mine, that's smart, look how smart that is. I got a great life, my communication skills are getting better, it's pretty soon going for more training, so.
I want
We
to
got
call
the
Russ.
red button on here like my dad is for his.
Yeah.
This